Okay, my name's Nelson. Hi, Chick, and in real life I'm an architect, but there's other things. This is actually, I'm going a little different from this. This is more of a social thing I'm talking about. But okay, so I didn't make sure. Let's go to this. The incandescent bulb. Oh, what a beautiful thing. It has beautiful light. It's safe. Now they want us to replace this incandescent with this sucker, an ICF, which kind of has crappy light. And oh, by the way, if I break this, it's a health hazard because it's loaded with mercury. Now, I understand the Earth is kind of going to crap, and then we've got our footprint, and I understand that. I'm willing to do that. What I'm really annoyed at is no one's actually asking anyone the rich to give up, say, any Gulf Stream time. It's like, and it's like amazes me. It's like, imagine, okay, 1% of this country's population took home every $4th last year. Holy for thanks. And 1%, every $4th goes to one person in 100. Now imagine the environmental footprint of these people. I mean, imagine, I bet you, if you start cranking the country in the numbers, you'll see that they're responsible for a quarter of all the pollution in this country. Hell, we could cut this country's environmental footprint by a quarter if we just get rid of, our A-listers. So it's like, for instance, okay, Donald Trump. Now, you know that vain SOB has never passed a mirror in his life without so he's on this coast and he looks in the mirror and, oh, that stupid do of his just ain't right. And unfortunately for old Donald, his hair engineer, because, come on, there's got to be an engineer to do whatever they do with his hair, is on the East Coast. Now he sends his Gulf Stream cross-country to fetch him and her to come back to dig with his hair because he's got some interview with some stupid show. Now, here's the question. How many of these have to be replaced with these to compensate for that one Gulf Stream flight? Any guesses? 33,332. And what I'd like to do is create a website to, put a big old spotlight on these people. Say, hey, look at these people. There are pigs. If we just cut their lifestyles down and maybe distribute the wealth a little better than it is in this country, we all could have a better life. And that's my spiel. So let's open up for discussion. I mean, come on. I mean, you know what I was thinking? You ever heard that thing? It's like, oh, it takes 250 Ethiopians to compensate for the one environmental footprint of one American? Come on, it's not you and I. I mean, if you kind of chronicle the job, I'm 250, I don't think so. It's when you take the numbers of people like Donald Trump, those 1%, how many Ethiopians does it take to fill the lifestyle of Donald Trump? Probably 10,000. I like a website where you can put the faces of these people on their site, and they're just shoveling Ethiopians into a bonfire to fuel their lifestyle. Okay, that's it. Questions, come on. I've had a few human bears. This is having fun. Have fun. Yes?
So how do you get the metrics to know how many, how do you get the energy metrics to know how many of these replace the fuel or the energy?
I just figured how much fuel it takes to run a Gulf Stream cross-country, and I figured how much fuel it takes to run one of these.
As far as money? Or
money, well, I'm talking about the CO2 right now.
Okay, so the emissions, basically.
Emissions, yes.
So what do you think would work better as an idea? Like like a site that would focus just on a select few, or kind of a site that helps people say, hey, it takes X amount of energy to produce, fuel for a plane, or whatever metrics you want to measure.
Well, I was hoping that it maybe be like an open forum where people could send their ideas and say, hey, look at this guy's lifestyle. I mean, for instance, I was reading that Angelina and Brad have 7 houses, each of like 10,000 square feet. How many of you have more than 500 square feet of living space? I mean, come on. And I know, don't hear me wrong. I mean, it's like, these lifestyles, it'd be great, but think about, okay, here's another example. Okay, Mr. Rutan is making a space plane. Mr. Branson's going to have Virgin Galactic Spaceways, and Mr. Bigelow is going to have floating hotels in outer space. I mean, how much greenhouse gas do you think it's going to take to send Angelina and Brad in outer space so they can be the first celebrities to fucking zero G's? But don't get me wrong, I would love to fucking zero G's. Like, you'd have to eat a big rubber band you send around the room.
Do you have an idea for the name?
I was thinking, thereearepigs.org or something like that. Like, make fun of these assholes.org or something like that.
You might want to keep it simple. Gluttony.com.
Oh, I like this. This guy, come here. Why don't you help me with that? I mean, and then the cool thing is what's really, there's a sidebar here. It's like, we all want to be rich. We all want to, you know, have every freaking living thing we can have, but
I guess
what's just too much?
what you can do is have paparazzi out there that anytime somebody has a huge expenditure, they load it up on the site and send it to that site and pop it up and show everybody, I guess.
I don't know. Oh, in the back, in the back.
Have you heard of a website called What's On?
What's on?
WhatZon.com.
What's on?
It's a site where you can track your own energy consumption.
Oh, there's a few of those.
Right, and so what you're proposing is basically doing this for other people, right?
Yeah, I would like.
So I've tried to do this for myself, and I found it very difficult to approximate for myself how much energy I use. So how would you go about figuring out how much energy other people use? I feel like that would be difficult. Do you have an idea
this
for that?
is good, and this, I understand what you're saying, and getting the numbers right are kind of crucial. But the more important thing is just shedding a light on how some of us, the environmental footprint they have. I mean, come on. I mean, you know, the Earth is in trouble. I mean, you think, you know, when there's another, 30 years from now, when there's another 2 billion people on this planet, in another 30 years when there's another, 100 million Americans, what it's going to be like? And, we have to share. And where some person has 100,000 square feet of living space in 5 or 6 houses, and there's, I have to walk by how many homeless guys on my way to work every day? I'm sick of it.
So really, I really sort of maybe I missed this part of it.
I know this isn't about money; it's about.
Well, no. So I got a couple observations.
Sorry. Thanks, Trevor.
One is so it seems like the people who would be among the most offending, right?
Yeah.
Would also be among the hardest to get the data from.
This is
right.
True.
So I kind of see that you have this data acquisition problem, where it's difficult to get. I mean, because let's put it this way: we don't have all like hyper-connected appliances yet. Although that's kind of like the vaporware, right? That's been talked about for years. Oh yeah, your refrigerator's going to talk to your cell phone. Well, most of them don't yet. I mean, it would be cool if I got a text message saying, "Hey, the chicken in your refrigerator went bad," but it doesn't happen yet. So I see this challenge of even in a perfect world, like how do you get the data? Do you have a sort of mechanism for dealing with that, or is this all sort of self-input?
I haven't thought that far ahead. I like I said, it's basically more about shedding light on lifestyles and these people. It isn't about, but I understand. Yeah, numbers are hard. Numbers are fun, but it's. I don't know.
I guess what I'm getting at, it's kind of like the. It's kind of like that question of people putting their their GPA on a resume, right? Like people only put it on there if it's good. The people that if it's bad, you don't put it on there.
Right.
So it's kind of like into this again. If I'm drawing the parallel here, but it seems like the if I had a positive footprint, whatever you deem that to be,
right.
I'm likely to promote that. But if I'm using to your point, like I have a 100,000 square foot house, which by the way would be pretty awesome. And I'm using like all sorts of energy. Like I don't want people to know about that. Like that would be terrible. People are going to be like protesting at my house.
Well, there'd have to be some sleuth work doing here.
Well, what if you built it in with like the utilities and stuff like that, where essentially this was almost like a public-private partnership or something to that effect?
I don't know.
Would that be legal?
What's that?
Would that be legal?
I mean, we're at the idea stage. We haven't worried about legal or illegal yet. We need like 10 more beers to get to that.
Are you saying make people volunteer to do this and like criticize them if they don't?
Oh, I would ask you.
No. Hey, I don't know. Tell you the truth, I just want to make fun of the wealthy. I was thinking of a website where, you know, like some guy throwing, you know, Ethiopians into a fire to say, no, this is Donald Trump's lifestyle.
You know,
So what about the data that you might actually be able to get? So public
well, there's real
officials-
estate records.
Well, public officials, let's say.
Yeah.
So I know that Governor Schwarzenegger flies from LA to Sacramento on a weekly basis. How much is his carbon footprint in that type of a scenario where you can actually measure the amount of travel that he's doing to kind of fulfill his lifestyle on taxpayer dollars?
so you can at least make an estimate, is what you're saying.
Well, actually,
If you want
Yeah.
to have a lasting input, the
Well-
public officials are the ones that persona matters.
right.
And if you shed the light on that, you know, they can enforce legislation down the line for LA's not going to care. They're
Right.
not going to pay attention. They're just going to do what they do until someone forces them to stop. Whereas public officials, it matters, and it's public data that you can then force them to react to it.
Yeah, I mean, I see kind of what he's talking about. I mean, in certain circles it's going to matter, certain circles it's not. But I like the idea of it being almost like a guesstimation, you know? Like, and it, I think the celebrity aspect of it is something that's kind of crucial, you know?
Unfortunately, we're going to have to cut it off there, but that is time. But if you want to follow up with this video is going to be online tomorrow.